Gen.G to like progress as like a team, they need to remove Canyon. Either immediately.
Is it right, just a quick before you even get into it, isn't Canyon your GOAT jungler?
Yes.
It's another episode of Hot Take Point Made, the show where I did tell people we don't have like massive names on this one. To be fair, on the Counter-Strike one, people like me and Maui did like majors and stuff. Kasad obviously was like a famous coach, etc. Maybe the stakes are a little bit higher in that one. It's more of our like endemic game. But I did tell people this show will grow on you over time, even though most of the comments I noticed still don't get it, mate. They're still doing like, you believe that? No, the whole point is we've extended our belief to the limits of credulity in order to make the take hot and therefore it to be really spicy, haven't we, you cretin? If it was called These Are Our Normal Opinions, it'd be a really bad show, and it's a terrible name for a show. Obviously, the joke is LEC's already writing that down on a napkin. These are Normal Takes show, weekly with two people. Anyway, you get the point. So, as usual, we're always starting now with the hottest of the takes. So, Keire, obviously, I asked him for the gist of his take. I think, listen, I don't even know how he's going to get into this, but go on, hit me with what I think. Listen, we're going to get into it, but on the surface, this is a mental take. So go on, here's, what does your take, Keire?
So I think Gen.G to like progress as like a team, they need to remove Canyon. Either immediately.
Is it right, just a quick, before you even get into it, isn't Canyon your GOAT jungler?
Yes.
Go on, hit me with the go on. Right. Tell me why they should kick him the fuck out.
No, but that's just how you know I'm not just making it up for the show, because I actually do think about these things. So, right. The spicy part of it is I actually think they probably need to get it done either now or they need to do it at the end of the season. The only thing, right, that will save them, that I think, is if like Canyon has like a mega Worlds or like does something miraculous at Worlds and wins on the World Championship. But like not ethically, but in terms of like the team moving forward and this group of players, because remember you've got Chovy and Ruler signed up till 2027, till the end of 2027. So you've or like whatever, I think something crazy like that.
Something like that.
Okay. So here's my problem with Canyon. I think you already begun to see the slippery slope last season, where in 2025, I think basically, if you want to be on Gen.G, you're playing with the top two, top three laners in the world, right? Canyon basically lives a very blessed experience, like a very blessed like life. Mid lane basically always wins, top lane wins most of the time, and then his bot lane's so unbelievably stable, right? And usually, for most of his career, Canyon plays good enough to justify that expediency, because he has the carry, like correct decision making macro jungler. But I have actually begun to think this is like actually slipping, and you're beginning to see like a lot of like cracks in like this fallacy. And this doesn't even just come purely from like first stand. I think you're beginning to see this a lot in like the LCK, and just in terms of like how much more help that like Canyon's getting compared to other people. Now, replacing him and who to replace him with is a much harder task, right? Okay. But you're now facing a problem where like Canyon not only has probably the outright best mid laner, right? Then one of the best like top laners, the best ADC. His support player, right, unequivocally does so much like to help him. And the number of games I'm watching where I can truly say what Canyon is doing and how Canyon's progressing the map is the reason that Gen.G is winning. It's getting lower and lower and lower like all the time. And it's getting to the point of like he's actually, for one of the first time, it was the same with Lehens at Worlds in 2024. I'm looking at Canyon and I'm thinking he's actually one of the rare lose condition players, you know what I mean, of what we've seen at like first stand with that. Because Keen and Ruler had some of the mistakes, but Nymera, shout out to Nymera, he done this great bit of content where he actually kind of like hyper focused in, and he shows actually a lot of the stuff that causes the bot lane to go wrong is basically just like Canyon slacking and letting things happen and kind of being a bit like disrespectful from SkewMond. But he doesn't just let this happen once. He lets it happen 3 times like in a series, and it's a complete walkover. The other part is like, I know in terms of the domestic record, when you have a team with players as good as Gen.G, your domestic record is never going to be good enough to remove any player.
Sure.
Even when the Hens lost them Worlds, they won everything except Worlds. But that was still reason enough to lose Lehens, right? Well, Canyon has cost you, arguably, first stand, okay? And for me, at Worlds, I think he contributed, along with some other people's performances, to the loss at like 2025. And now, I don't think you're like talking about him just being the outright best jungler in the world. Like, I think when I went back and reviewed it, and I've been watching some of the games again, I can't say I've watched them all, but a lot of the key games, I think he's like slipped down to maybe like fourth. I could see in review when I watched him in the regular season, like just there. I think a lot of people give him the crown without him actually having to work. He's got like that what's that turn of phrase, that British turn of phrase, Thorin. A man who's got like a thingy for rising early and sleep until noon. Yeah, that's Canyon. Like Canyon doesn't actually have to be Canyon because his name just does all the work for him. It just does so much legwork with them. But if you actually, and for me, if you hyper focus on him, a lot of Gen.G's problems come from Canyon.
Okay, go on, Zaboutine.
I have a yes, but because I think that it scratches the paint of a topic that nobody wants. Like there is kind of a very small elephant in the room of Gen.G that, yeah, indeed, I don't think Canyon is the best at this position in the world since, I would say, probably a year. Like the discussion has never been as alive as now. And I really thought about it because surprisingly yesterday I was actually watching for one of the very few time I have the time to the LCK, and I watched the T1 versus Gen.G match, and I was very, very, very surprised by some of the overextends that I see most LEC junglers not do, right? Like I watch LEC and I saw Canyon like attempt something that I wouldn't even see Sheo or Adioya do. So I was very surprised, and I think that, yeah, he has a way more, I would say the frequency at which he has his derailing plays is increasing, while I don't think that he has been the edging factor of skirmishes for Gen.G as much as we could think of. Yet, in the game he played against T1, solo kills Faker in game 1 and stuff, he does a lot of really good things. Still an amazing jungler. Where I start to reevaluate the take is I think that it's taken within a framework where the jungle is very one-dimensional. You gotta farm and fight. You just go to the strong side, you farm and fight. Everybody on the map is waiting for you to finish your clear. Everybody on the map is waiting for you to get into the river contest vision. You're always playing the strongest type of champions in the game with like Thunder Sky, able to regen 4 or 5 times. I think although he was really good at that, I think that's more the diversity of his playstyle that made him usually stand on top. Is when the meta was switching back to Skarner Sejuani, and then it was, I don't know, like Peanut time, he was as good as Peanut on that. And then it was going back on like the Vi meta, and it's mostly, or a Viego Veda. It was Owner's meta, but he was still like as good as Owner on this. And because he was as good or second best to every single meta, we would consider him like the king. Because I think, for instance, in the Bruiser-based, skirmish-based meta, which we have currently, Tarzan and Owner, for instance, are just way better jungle over the years. Like since 2020, it's probably the case, like 2021. So I think it is very hard because it is a very good take within the framework of the current meta. I do think that if the meta changes, and we saw, for instance, last weekend, the Fnatic versus G2, SkewMond played 2 tanks, right? I think he played Skarner and Sejuani, and he was ass on them. Because you can't just reinvent yourself as a jungler when you're used to just play Xin Zhao and have like 1k gold lead on the whole map and just press auto attack with Thunder Sky and get 500 HP and survive. Like you have to make plays. And I know like in these games, if Canyon was playing, he would be a much better jungle than SkewMond. And this is why you have play styles. Like for instance, in Europe, a Yike is not a SkewMond and vice versa. Canyon can do it all, right? And I think to this day, I'm still the most confident he's the one who can do it all. And that is one of the main reasons Gen.G can as well be that dominant over the years. Is because if tomorrow you have to blind pick Sejuani in every single game, Canyon's top 3. And for that reason, I would tend to slightly disagree because I think it's skewed by the current meta.
Here's the problem. I actually do think it's a really good hot take. And the reason why it's a really good hot take is it just sounds absurd on the surface. Like, as I said, I even know he thinks he's the fucking GOAT jungler. So the idea that you take a team that basically only so far, like, no one really yet really gives a fuck about first stand. We're all just pretending we do because G2 did the fucking run, right? No one gave a fuck when Hanwha Life won it last year. They just didn't. So I think actually it's more like he hasn't won Worlds with Gen.G. But here's the actual thing that I also think is interesting about that is, I actually agree with most of the points. The problem is I'm sort of like Zaboutine. At the end, the issue is this. I'll cut to the end and then I'll do the bit in between. So I'll do like a Tarantino or whatever. So to cut to the end, the problem is this. Because he hasn't completely giga-failed and they do still win the league and they are still a favourite in every single international tournament, they'll probably win MSI, etc., and go into Worlds as the favourite again, even if they bomb. The problem is, to actually do an upgrade on paper or in the server is just a blockbuster move. And essentially, the only two players I think you can replace him with is Tarzan and Orna with Zaboutine. And you can't get Orna because he's on T1. And then Tarzan, I'm assuming for now, isn't coming. But I do think, by the way, if you actually agreed with us on Gen.G, that should be the person in the future you target. By the way, I even think whether Keire plays well or not, that's probably just the best jungle for the last 2 years. Like, he just sort of completed his game and he looks ready to win. In fact, if you gave him Chovy and Ruler and all the rest. So here's the problem, right? First of all, I agree. Actually, as a player, Canyon is overrated for the last 3 or 4 years, mate. Like, people forget. Obviously, he was unbelievable in the years when they could have won the like back-to-back titles, etc. Like, that was very real. They absolutely could. They could even, people forget, they were very good even in 2019. He had like 2 or 3 years where he was an absolutely cracked jungler. He was mega. He deserved his status as like, could this be the GOAT jungler? He might even be. But if you notice, right, when he fails Worlds, no one ever goes, aha, so that's your GOAT jump because he's already won. That's the weirdest thing about League. If Chovy wins at the end, by the way, by the logic of Chovy haters, it'll make everything they said before stupid because eventually he was the winner. I mean, I know that's not the way it works, but that is sort of how it works. So if you win early on, you sort of just get that off your back. You never have to. So I know one says it to Scout, even though Scout's bombed a fucking million Worlds at this point in time because he did win one. So first of all, I do think he has a level of protection that people like Chovy and Knight don't have because he's already won Worlds. Then also, I think if you remember the DK, the damn D+ teams, after they lost the other players and they had those dodgy bot lanes, at the time the perception when Nagori was going back and forth from China was like the only good thing about those teams is Showmaker and Canyon. And actually, if you even remember back then, a lot of people will forget this, he used to like phone some of the regular seasons in. He used to, because the team wasn't very good, they were like 3rd or 4th, they were never going to win the league, but they were never going to win LCK, it was just implausible. Like Gen.G and T1 already had their like semi-super teams and were super, you know, the joke is those teams would actually go like, you know, 15-1 or whatever the fuck, or 17-2, you know, that sort of scoreline. So even if you did a really good job as Dan one, you're going to win like 14 games, 13 games, you're going to be 3rd. So he used to sort of fall in the regular season, but people will remember he would have still big games in playoffs or Worlds. I mean, people remember that like epic Nidalee game he had at Worlds. He was a stud still. Him and Showmaker sort of did the same thing, even though I actually think in that time maybe Showmaker was the more stable player. But he already, essentially, the point is, I think we all forgave him because we thought, well, with his really good teams, he was the best jungler, he's the best in the world, he won Worlds, and then he had some shit teammates. So since he's the jungler, we all went, well, you know, that can happen to junglers. If you have bad teammates, your level goes down. So people forget when he actually joined Gen.G, oh, it was insane on paper, but I remember even when he joined, a lot of us were even going, is he actually Canyon though, bro? Like, he won't need to be on this team, but is he even that guy who was like the stud? As we're saying, mate, it's a long time ago. It's 2021 was the last time he was like uber god mode the whole time. That is 5 years ago. That's a crazy amount of time. Like, there's a lot of things can happen in League. The joke is, when he was last at that level, you still had like most of G2's fucking super team composed playing in their league, etc. It was a long time ago. So I do think he hasn't actually been that Canyon for fucking ages. Then in this team, he never had to be. He just sort of got by on the fact, I agree, he had the ultimate dream for any jungler, all winning lanes, and then also in your team, here's the thing also, I think Duro benefits from, so I also want to see Duro in his career not playing a super team like Gen.G. Bro, when you're the support in the jungle, and you have like 3 of the best laners to ever play League of Legends, all currently really good too, you just get a billion bans that'll never go your way that in a normal team would. Like, if you'd have put Canyon back on D+, he'd get all sorts of target bans for the Lee Sin or whatever the fuck he was strong on. They're wasting those bans on Chovy, on fucking Ruler. Like, you just, like, you get such a crazy advantage being in super teams when they work. Then also, I'll just say this part as well, which is, I do think as well that we do that thing where it's like, because his name is Canyon and he has won so much, he's considered the GOAT. If he gets to win with the others, even if he's the least important part, some of those championships still count for you. That's how people do it in League, I notice. Like, they think because you've sort of done it yet once and you were really good when you did it, somehow they all count for you in some way. I've never really understood how that works, because to me, each championship should sort of be individual. You should sort of like get a pie of credit and you divide some of it up. And every now and then someone gets carried, even who's a great player, even if in other championships they were the main guy. So I do agree with it. The problem is, as you said, it's the practicality of it. Like, as a take, they should replace him. Yeah, that's a great take. Like, if I could click my fingers, I'd bring Tarzan tomorrow. And then you know what? BLG can shut the fuck up. T1 can sit down, mate. We're going to win everything. We're Golden Road this motherfucker, except it's too late. But, so I do think the problem is the practicality. As you said, you can't kick Canyon, bro. Especially not when you keep winning LCK as well. Like, if you win LCK, by the way, that ship sailed. He'll be here another fucking year. They'll find a way to get him that one more year type thing, you know. And here's another thing as well. Even though I guess this would be silly because it would make the problems not that big a deal. Say, Gen.G right now is supposed to win worlds, like, for real. Like, the best team. They could even fluke it, bro, and then he'll get to stay. God forbid that. What if they just got the shittest bracket ever? You know what if G2 actually beat like T1 and then they play G2 in the semis and then they play pick whichever team you want from China in the final and they just beat them, because I imagine head to head they still would have beaten them. That's why we never got to see it firsthand, did we? Then the joke is he could even still be just this bad because win worlds. And then he'll get to stay forever, mate. Well, I'll have to pretend he was just the best ever. And even worse, then, even though I'm also a Canyon fan, all the fucking plebs will go, he has to be the GOAT. Look, he was the best for like 7 years, Thor. It's like, oh, God. And they'll do that way. They'll make him sound like the perfect player for every year of his career when he's at the top. Mm-hmm. So it is a good take. The problem is, it's not plausible, is it? But that's what makes it a good take in some degree. And it's just absurd, because you are also doing that thing of like... Like, in this team, you can't kick anyone, can you? That's actually a problem they have, by the way. It's actually a classic problem super teams have. Is it becomes impossible to kick anyone, doesn't it?
And here's the thing, it becomes a form of decision-maker paralysis. And I'll tell you right now, CLG showed this. Sometimes you actually have to kick them whilst they're good. By the way, G2 done this with Yike. Yike wasn't a bad player when they kicked him, but you've got to... And that move might have not worked out, but it did work out, and now you get to reap all the benefits of the upside. And, you know, Caps came down, and then SkewMond came up, and G2's winning legacy is now being preserved probably for the next, like, 3-4 years. So if they keep SkewMond, you know what I mean? And for me... That's a part of it is Gen.G. Gen.G's got to be like forward looking, you know what I mean? Like you've got these players, you've got them on the contract. Who's the player that I can get rid of like now? Because eventually someone's going to have to go or like retire or whatever it is. And for me, you're better off ripping off that band-aid, historically for me in esports.
Oh, and also, since you referenced it, actually the two big series they lost to KT, the summer finals the upper bracket, the upper second round or whatever it was last year, and then the world semis, actually Cuz did fucking gap him in a bunch of those games. It's just forgotten, because again, Chovy draws all the blame, because everyone just cares about Chovy winning or losing, and people to forget, that's why everyone had a buzz about Cuz. He was fucking looking awesome in those games. Yeah, it's true. Okay. Right, I think now we do the fan take. Right, so here's the question. So Talon, by the way, if you want to submit a take of your own, subscribe to the Last Nation Discord, and then there's a LOL Hot Takes channel. Talon says, listen to this, EU could have 3 top 10 teams in the world and 4 top 15 teams if the rosters were constructed accordingly. Now, to be fair, he hasn't made them all like the full 5. Like the top ones like Nak or Kana, Broken Blade. Oh, these are the players. Okay, these are just the players, right? So, okay, he's saying that like Nak or Kana, Broken Blade, or Wonder. Look, Wonder's a fucking reach, but okay. He's putting them as his 4 top players. Jungle's a bit better. That's at least SkewMond, Yoya, Inspired. Okay, I mean, he's put Inspired, whatever. Yike / Rylek, depending on which one you want. Bit of reach on Rylek again. But mid lane is Caps, Jojo, Pion, Humanoid. And then he put, I like it when it just says import / nuke. Like, you can't just say, like, just insert Korean. Like, they have to actually exist. Okay, wait a second. We'll pause that for a second. ADC says Kalist, Hansama, Upset, Kazi / Ice. I love the way it's always at the end, some fucker just sneaks in. Like, if you do it, by the way, tip to people making hot takes. If you'd have just kept this like 3 teams, your argument would look way better. But your reaches for that 4th one are crazy. Then the last one is support is Busio, Labrov, Alvaro, and Mickey X. He says, with the right GMing and balance of personalities, this mix of players, EU could threaten to win everything. I also appreciate, by the way, he's sort of like done it in some ways an in-depth take, in some ways a really lazy take. If you notice, he hasn't constructed any of the teams for us. He's just given us a pool of players and gone, if you made the perfect team out of those, you figure it out. I haven't got time for this shit. Then it could probably be like all top 10 in the world. It's like, okay, am I going to sit around doing that? Like for you? Like, by the way, you're making the case. Why don't you make me the 3 teams and show me how good they'd all be? You make the power of the personalities work. You make all the roster moves work. Don't fucking put import brackets, ice, fucking right. Like, yeah, that 4th one, you pushed the boat out so far. Whatever, I guess he made it a hot take, right? Who wants to jump in on this one? Thoughts? We need to make 3. Fuck the 4th one. I'm going to be kind to this guy. We're going to make 3 top 10 teams. Is it possible?
No. Obviously, it's not. It's completely obvious. I'm not even sure the best one is top 10. It can be. But that's the thing. It's not because we got like 2 back-to-back series at first 10 that suddenly we're a region that consistently gets out of like Swiss stage at Worlds, and our second scene is usually already a bunch of cheaters, right? Like, it's comparatively to the standards of an international tournament, right? Obviously, right? They are not bad at League of Legends. It's just when you start having to play versus BLG, JDG, I don't know, Gen.G, all these teams, T1, it doesn't look that great anymore. Like this pool of players from, wow, I'm going to build a super team and I'm going to win it all, just switches to, oh, maybe we can take a game or two from these teams. And I can tell you there is at least 10 teams that are like more dangerous than even Naknako, SkewMond, Caps, Cadis, Buzio. Because by definition, yeah, it's like, as you guys say, it's just a bunch of players. So you still have to make them work. And I'm really curious to see how you kind of balance them up when you have Naknako on the top side, Cadis on the bot side, and SkewMond in the jungle. Maybe it's the best team, right? But someone got to make it work. I do feel like there is this kind of people are riding the wave of G2 going in winter, beating back-to-back 3-0s, and just putting EU there on the map. We're not, right? I watch LEC. That's my job. Every week, I watch G2 lose 2-1 against Fnatic. They were horrible because SkewMond had to pick, like, suddenly SkewMond had to pick a tank, and Broken Blade had to pick a carry, and Rom burnt before our eyes. Suddenly, it was just an LEC team. So I would say, I think that the role of minor region is to build one team that can go to semis. Yeah. And if you look at the history of League of Legends, all of it, like the best, like the peak performance is semis, and sometimes out of something you win a semi and you go to final, and then you have the chance to get like 3-0 by a Chinese team. But Western regions should aim for semis. So being from semis to being able to produce 4 teams that can go into the top 10 is completely delirious. Because I do believe, like, you watch Casey right now, and I'm just taking the second names. Elioya is invincible. Kana is invincible. Jojo is really good in lane, but that's it. Hans makes mistake, and Labrov didn't do anything the last 2 weeks. Literally, like, was probably the worst player at G2. So I like this optimism, but you have to understand that your 4th player in this list, like, even if he was Korean, right? If I take Ice or Keu, this guy doesn't have the right to bring the Gatorade in the Korean team. He's not good enough to be like the 6th or 7th, right? Because you're probably going to get, like, in mids, you're going to get like Chovy, Faker, then you're going to get, like, I don't know, Scout and BDD, and I don't know, like, the list is so long, and Vikla and Zeka, right? He doesn't even have the right to bring the Gatorade. And you put him 4th next to Nuke, with currently lost 2-0 to SK, while being gapped by leader. So I have a serious question about whether or not you watch the leagues, or if you just, you know, it looks like I don't know if you had this in the past, a Panini album. You know, you just take all the rare cards album, and you try to assemble a team. Yeah, exactly. That's madness. I appreciate the attempt, but it's just raw optimism.
I love about, like, when Zaboutine's looking at this, he just looks at the mid lane part and he sees in brackets import for the mid lane. He's like, owner. I'll put owner in there. I'll go get, because he's going to be better than all the other. He's going to be better than all the.
My take's still alive. If I put owner in any of these teams, he's top 2. That's it. I can put it in any position. He's top 2.
It's just like one of these guys, say, Football Manager, right?
Oh, by the way, Jojo is not European. Yeah. By the way.
Well, we're counting Canada as well. They just mean the players currently in the region or whatever. I know, yeah, true.
This is like one of these guys on Football Manager who says he sends a safety in. He's like, win the Premier League with, like, Musselburgh. Like, that's what this guy's basically doing to you. And it's like, no, mate, I can't be done. Not in this edition. Like, here's the thing. I actually think G2, just this G2, is a top 10 team, okay? And I think if you put Nako on it, and you gave them, like, a year, I think you could make a better team. I think Nako is just, like, right now, on this form, he's just like a mini Western version of Bin. where he's just like a mini bin right now. He's on some. He's had a real high. He's got uber confidence. He just feels like he can outplay everyone, which is like the majority of the time it is true. He does sometimes outplay himself, right? But like in terms of like game strength to game strength and game to game, he does do like really, really well. Even that Ornn game, by the way, it's like if you the one that you just watched there, like he's kind of carrying on as much as you like can carry. He's doing some stuff. I do like the fact that this guy's also just stuck in the Fnatic that never was able to do anything, because you can have Wonder, then whatever jungler you want, Humanoid, Upset, Mickey X, just to torture all the Fnatic fans again. So, because we know that team doesn't work. That team was actually worse than Team Liquid, by the way, the NA team, because they just lost to them all the time. So we know that team doesn't work. So your only options are basically to take like the Canna Yike, and then you take Humanoid to try and maybe like have some upwards laning with like Upset, Mickey X. You try that type of team, maybe. Like
You're
you try
trying
and just
too
go
hard.
like some.
It's just
yeah,
the take is not good. That's
what I'm saying.
It's
just,
over.
It's not possible. All you have to do, like for me, you can get one. If Zaboutine's right, the Frenchman is correct. The focus here is you get one team that can can possibly be top 5, right?
Yes.
And then the rest of it, you don't try and spread out the talent and try and do 3 top 10s, because then you just end up with 3 top 20, top 30 teams. And that's useless to you. It's get one top 5 team. And I think the only way you do that is you put G2 together and you have Nako. I don't even think Kalist is right now that much of a percentile difference on Hansama at the top end. Like, he maybe is better than Hansama, but in terms of, like, I know how good Hansama and Labrov are already, and, you know what I mean, I don't want to change too much variable in the man-to-man.
No, I'm with you. First of all, the reason this take is ass is because he actually also just stretched it way beyond any level of credulity. Like, this take doesn't even vaguely hold together. It just blows away immediately like House of Cards. Like, as I say, some of the names that these people aren't even elite in the LEC. Wonder hasn't been actually an elite player for donkey's years. The reason I say he's all right is because he hasn't been on top teams for years. His job now, I'll give you a football reference, is like right at the end of his career. You remember the player Raheem Sterling? He used to be a really amazing forward. Back in the day, he was one of the best, but that's about 10 years ago. At the end of his career, he could still play and give you a goal every now and then, a little run. That's all I want from Wonder. I just want that one Gragas game, that one fucking like random redacting game that you play. I wouldn't actually want him on like G2. So first of all, get people like him off the list. Get fucking Yike off. Rylek literally's done nothing yet except a one regular season. Like, let's not get silly. We're putting him against literally like fucking, like, we're saying Kanavi's a failure in the LCK. What the fuck's Rylek ever done? He put him on the HLE, let's see. Then you go, the mid lane one, again, forget the import part, that's ludicrous, because you didn't even name a player. Hey, we've got enough players in our region to be top 10. Which players? Just import one. Shut the fuck up. Then also, why the hell is there a forward slash with Nuke there? Brother, even 2 years ago at his best. To be top 10 in the world. But he was having a hard time making the finals of LEC. He used to make Fnatic look decent. Now you need to know about Nuke. Like, he's not playing against Knight and fucking Chovy, you lunatic. Then on the last one, I like Ice. He doesn't get on this list because I agree with Zaboutine. If he goes home, it's berserker treatment all over again. Which team do you want, make? Bro or fucking KRX or whatever? Or DN Supers? Joking, some of them would be too good for him. He wouldn't get on those teams. But here's the thing. I agree with you. The other mistake he's made is, because he hasn't actually had the balls to make the teams himself, because if he did, they could fall apart. He's just gone, you just figure out the GMing and the personalities in the shop. What do you mean that's the whole business? It's not 2015, you just put the players in. The whole business of this game is out. By the way, right now, if I can say you just figure it all out, then you know what? Hanwha Life's going to win the fucking Golden Road this year. Look at the roster they have. It's unbelievable. On paper, that's a banging roster. That's a bunch of fucking like champions, mate. But in the server, it's ass. It's arguably not even top 3 in Korea. Like, you could even argue why they're borderline top 10 and they have a bunch of like stud-ass players that on paper should work like your one does. So also, I agree with you. I think what he wants to do actually, especially by just giving the names, is do the thing where you just imagine each in isolation, then you make a weird grab bag. And at the end, I agree. The dirty part is, he's you notice how he says 3 top 10 teams. I already know that you as a fan did what I did. Your brain went 3 top 10. So you mean we could have like 1 top 5 like G2 now, then we could have one like a KC type team, could be like, 7th, and then one could be 9th. No. He's only done it like technicality. Like his teams would have to be 10th, 9th and 8th. Like, because he's spreading all the talent out. I agree with you guys. The whole thing of, like, just make the rosters work. They wouldn't. That's also one of the worst things we have in Europe, by the way. We have sick players, but notice how you guys nailed it when you were analysing it, right? The best role on paper we actually have in Europe is top lane, because we have both Kana and Naknako. So it means Broken Blade is, like, the third best one. He doesn't have to be the best. If you have Kana and Naknako, right, you've got a nice place to start building that first number one team. Literally, neither of them would play in the same team. Like, you've already seen, you can have Kenner on the team that has the Callis player. He'll play the weak side. He'll play without a resource. If you have Naknako, I'll tell you why Naknako is in for a tortured career in League of Legends. He better fucking hope specifically it's G2 that picks him up, where I know sometimes in the right meta, Hans Sama will play unselfishly. Because, bro, my old fucking Bo Flame back in the day did a sick interview with me in like 2018 where he actually explained, and I thought it was a genius point, because at the time Khan was like the best top lane and was rampaging like the shy style of everyone. I basically said, why can't you play like that? That's kind of your style that you pioneered. And he said the problem is, remember, Khan has like fucking Prey and Gorilla bot lane, and obviously like a lot of teams that had the carry top lane had that player. And his point, it's Smeb did, fucking Magnoon, his point was, if you want to be a guy who all day long carries from top lane, you better have a bot lane that can just go even every single time with no resources and no jungle attention. And here's what I actually had the epiphany about that's really depressing if you want to be Naknako, is, bro, we don't have elite players that play weak side bot lane. If we have elite ADCs, they're the star of the team. If we have elite fucking supports, they're roaming all over the map like Busio and Mickey X. We don't. It's only Korea has so much talent. They'll take fuckers like Prey and Gorilla, who probably should have been stars in their own right, and go, you're the bitches of this team playing the shit role. Like, we do that to the top laner. We don't do that to fucking ADC. That's not what we do in our game. So basically, I think you can only make one team that would even have a chance to make this. It wouldn't be the current G2, because I'm with Zaboutine. That's already been and gone. That was like literally for 2 days. My team would basically be KC, but with SkewMond and Jojo. I think if you had Canna, SkewMond, Jojo, Callis, Busio, you got a chance. But even then, I don't know if that combo would work. I don't know if the shot calling would work out. I imagine even if Caps isn't that great sometimes, he probably has quite an interesting role, how he plays with SkewMond and knows what he wants and stuff. Go on, what were you going to say, Zaboutine?
I just wanted to add something that never fails. When people make takes like this, you have to see if they write the name of the players right.
Okay.
Because I think, why? Let me. Okay, the tips works because you have to watch enough of the league to kind of just.
I like the way you're doing like
mimic.
This is like a prosecution argument of like, Your Honour, if he was such an expert on the players, so he was reading their names, why would he spell Naknako wrong? And why would he? Because if you don't know, guys, he wrote Naknako with one A, he wrote Mickey X with a C. So it's true. I know what you mean. It's a bit. Put it to example.
Hilesh is with an I and not a Y.
If that name was on his screen the whole time,
it's
suspicious, isn't it?
Right?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Zaboutine, all I'm going to say, I'm going to come in as a defence attorney right here. Okay, I watched the LPL every single game for the better part of like a decade, 15 years. I still just like say their names phonetically, as in like I don't even try and say like the Chinese names.
No, but that's saying it though. He's writing it. Yeah, he's writing it, mate. He's writing it.
And I don't even know. I don't even try and like capitalise. I can't remember where like a W's capitalised.
This is LPL, right? Like this is the Chinese languages are among the hardest in the world. Like we're just speaking about writing player names. I came into the defence attorney. I didn't say I was going to.
No, it's garbage. This take's actually trash because I even agree with them. You're on the wrong show, mate. We're all elitists on this. We all fucking LCK. If anything, our take, which is the hot take, we'll just spin into that, shall we? It's not really a take I had planned, but if you want a free hot take, I'll just give you a bonus one. The real hot take is G2 still isn't top 10 in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I don't think G2 is top 10.
Like, I don't get this. Are we actually for real? By the way, if so, everyone in the comments right now, make really bold predictions for the rest of the year. Because by your logic, you just saw them back-to-back beat not only Korean teams, but Gen.G 3-0. So I want takes, the following takes. They can win MSI. They'll be in the Worlds final. Mate, that's the level of take you have to have if you believe those are, like, legit results. Like, I look at that. Put it this way, I don't think it's a surprise that Order, who was obviously sat at home watching that tournament, the first thing he said in an interview back in LCK was something like, essentially, like, we didn't put enough emphasis on like early gamers junglers, and that's what SkewMond and Jun did basically. Like they don't look at that, bro, and go, wow, G2, holy fuck. They just go, oh right, you figured out an angle on the meta we were like deficient on. Or you know the famous thing people say about Gen.G is that they get inside scrim bubbles, and in that bubble no one does those things, so you don't know that's like the hot shit at World is actually apparently what happens to the LPL teams every bloody year. So no, I think that's like the spicier take, if anything. Look, it's still hard to name 10 teams, I'll give you that. But the problem is, even though this is why it's a good hot take, they're all going to go, did they just beat Gen.G? I'm sorry, if you put them tomorrow against teams like Anyone's Legend, I would take to beat them in the best of 5. T1 wasn't even there. I think T1 would beat them. Like, look, you can say I'm being a hater, but I genuinely just don't think they actually would be. Maybe they could be like 8th or something. Maybe that's the way I'd allow them to be. But they're not. Like, but it's weird. The idea they're like a stone cold lock for top 5, I think it's debatable.
Yeah, like
Okay.
that's the thing.
Is it time for my hot take?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I think BLG is going to do the Golden Road.
Oh, okay. The reason that's spicy is they've got to win 3 tournaments, bro. One of them's Worlds. But it's good. I like it.
Yeah, we consider Golden Road right.
And
like,
remember, Zaboutine is a notorious LPL downplay because he doesn't watch it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm
where's this
going to
coming
try
from?
to elaborate,
Come on.
right? But
Come
I
on.
think it's a good hot take to start with. First of all, I
Also,
feel
every
like-
comment's going to say this was my or Keire's take, but it wasn't. It was yours. So go.
Great, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of dysfunctions in Korean GMing and teams in the current state. I do believe that the only really strong and consistent candidate from Korea is gonna be Gen.G this year. And while being the best team in Korea, we've clearly seen that they have this probability of failure that's pretty big. On the international stage, because they don't. I think the competition is not as fierce as people say. Like, especially myself watching the LCK yesterday, I didn't expect looking at T1 versus Gen.G and seeing that many mistakes. Usually, the dish is served a little bit like it's better. Like, the dish has better taste when I watch LCK. On the other hand, I think that while most big teams in the world are like at the too long in their cycle, right? That's the Canyon case, or too early in their cycle, like Pace, which I think is a major change for T1. They never played around an ADC, and once again, it proves that it's very hard for them to do so. I feel like the team that has been spending the last 3 years going and sorting through all the potential problems and finding the exact right players that all click and look in the same direction is BLG, because I do think that they have the structure of a top tier team, because they can carry on 3 lanes. They have no major weaknesses at any point in the game. Playing early game is horrible against them. Skirmishing is probably the hardest it's ever been, and it's probably going to become even worse because of their confidence that's building up slowly but steadily after winning first hand. I do think that Shun is one of the few junglers that, while probably not better than Canyon at his prime, he is in this type of junglers that can play all styles. And I think that they have the best ADC, extremely polyvalent ADC, probably to me the most polyvalent ADC in the world, because I do believe that when B needs to carry, Viper is just solid, and he has shown that he can do that even last year in HLE. And whenever someone wants to carry someone else whenever no one's carrying on the map, he starts playing like incredible. So you kind of have the better of Guma and Pace in just one player. And because they have the ability for me to play on mostly all metas, I don't see Riot making any major change to the game, because League Next is coming next year. So they have to keep the game steady in a way that they can release a fresh product next year. So for all these reasons, I think that they are the only candidates to Golden Road before League Next, and they probably will do it. And then it's going to be the biggest what if of the history of the game, because the game is going to be completely shuffled.
Okay. You like it?
See, here's the thing, right? Okay, Zaboutine, I'll let you in on a little thing about the BLG players. There's basically only one player on BLG that you can basically bank on will just be like probably top 5 all year, right? Probably Viper, but it's like Knight. In terms of like Knight will probably just be like, 'cause he's just been too good for like too long a period. Like Knight has genuinely been a top 5 like mid laner in the world every single year, like every moment of every month to month to month to month. By the way,
Been say top 3 to me.
yeah, like
I'm okay
but like
with
since 2019, and he had like a drop off for one playoff in
Okay.
2021. In terms of like being just absolutely incredible. The issue is like people have drawn a line. They've done that thing where it's like, oh, like Ben is back, right? But Ben's back for like 2 months of the year. Remember, Bin didn't start this year great. He got really good in playoffs, and then he was really good at first stand. The majority of this year, Bin actually still hasn't been Bin, and all of last year, it hasn't been Bin. So you're basically just hanging on him, having all his problems ironed out. The second part of this, and is Jun and On are fucking tilters. If they ever end up like 1 down, 2-1 down in like series, right? Okay, like Jun and On literally like tilt and int. Like, because On doesn't get this rep. I was talking to Nightmare about this. On doesn't get the rep, which is a bit of a shame, of being a shot caller. The same way like people like Mata do, or Ming does, or Xiaohu, right? The guy talks all the time on all his teams. He basically is just like a shot caller. Because you've got people like Knight who don't like talk that much. On talks a fucking shit ton, right? But that problem comes from is he's like highly driven, like confidence player. And the big issue is the domestics. I actually think they're more likely to probably like be like fuck up a domestic and like win MSI and do well at Worlds, and then like win even sometimes all of the domestic, because they've got this split and they've got the grand final. And I think teams like Anyone's Legend and JDG, I think it's more likely that they like snipe them in the playoffs and stuff like that than anything else than the internationals. Because China's like team to team, like domestic stuff, they have got the best domestic player, which is in Knight. But even then, like Tarzan has basically shown that he can basically bring the level of like any group of players up to like match any like team. Now, yeah, Anyone's Legend lost early in the playoffs like this year, but he spent the whole of last year just like carrying them to like places those players had never been before, and he's really, 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 really good at shutting down the best part of BLG. Particularly like with Shanks, and yeah, Kyle has like dropped off a bit, but the same way as like Bing can get better, Kyle can get better, and also there's like other teams that are like stacked. Like, I don't want to get like too hot about it, but like Tian, the top esports with Tian, Cream, and Jackie Love, maybe they can't like beat BLG, right? But they can like knock someone else down, or they can like take someone else out and then end up like playing, and then so like they play BLG early and expose like things like about BLG. It isn't like the domestic region of China is just so hard to like predict historically. I think because like night teams have won so much, it's given people the idea of like stability. But I don't even think they'll win all the domestic splits, even before like.
Yeah, it's a microclimate. I agree with you on that. Yeah, but still, who else? I do believe that they're gonna make it, because I think this is the very. If they keep the momentum they have currently, which they can. They will take the golden road. I
will say this: if this team doesn't do it, I don't think the LPL will ever produce a team that can in the modern era, like in a version of League of Legends that's actually competitive. Like League of Legends could play on for 15 years and someone does it like at the death end of the game, like stuff that happened in like Brood War. But like in the actual modern era, I don't think if this team does it, I don't think the LPL will assemble a team that can ever again. I think it's this is the team.
The reason I think the roster is exciting is because it is the only team since that JDG 2023 roster broke up that ever looked like it really could just be like the true favourite even for the tournament. Like, not just like they're really good, watch out, LCK. No, you can actually believe like you did on that team. Like, hey, they're going to win every fucking match. Like, they just look that good. So the reason why is the roster construction is obviously unbelievable. And actually, if anything, I agree with like the take Zaboutine has. Here's the funny thing. When you look at that roster, I actually think, look, I already thought Jun would be good bringing him back. I thought that was going to work anyway. But then you do have question marks like, is Bin just going to still be dodgy as fuck? If anything, Bin's been way better than he ever could have hoped for. Meanwhile, yeah, Viper's actually been sort of hit and miss and a bit of a slow starter. The difference is, historically, Viper's one of the most reliable players probably ever in League of Legends. Like, that, you're almost guaranteed that person will be drawn like a magnet back to the top, whether it'll be in the summer, whether it'll be for MSI, whatever. And they just won first stand without even really needing him much, mate. Like, actually got sort of fucking Bing chill for once to be a passenger in his career and just get to win the championship. So you look at the squad they have. Like, you've already seen, if it's the right meta, Jun can compete with anyone in the world at jungle. I actually think it's underrated that a Chinese jungler is that good, because sadly, so many of the Chinese junglers, especially at Worlds, have sort of bombed it and haven't done that well. I'll remind people, he was the one that almost won Worlds with them in 2024 with a much more scuffed roster. Then you do have the Viper factor. Like, I can sort of guarantee that guy will be good, at least by the time Worlds comes around. Knight actually is just not only insane, but I think in this team also, he actually looks to me like he has less of sort of like burden on him in some sense. Like, he just carries all the time nowadays. Doesn't even have the off game that's not that good. It also doesn't force the ear as much now, you'll notice. So yeah, I actually think the baseline of the team's excellent. And crucially, as of right now, it wasn't just first stand. The problems in Korea are far from fixed themselves. Like the joke is right now, you'd have to say KT is the best fucking Korean team. And that team wouldn't win Worlds if it went there. Like they shouldn't even send that team. Like you better hope they don't go. So if that team's it, but here's a scenario people haven't thought of. Yeah, look, Gen.G always beats T1, but it could be like Gen.G and KT at fucking MSI. That suddenly becomes an easier tournament to win. Like if I'm actually BLG, I don't care what form T1's in. I'd rather play KT with any of these fucking current form than Faker with the clutch element. Keire can do crazy shit in the back. Those are all the things, because I agree with you, by the way. In the same way as you just pointed out that essentially night teams always being in the finals and then winning like most of the time makes China look stable. I've always said, another mini hot take, I'm doing the Zaboutine one now. I actually think LCK/Korea as a region is massively overrated in the history of League of Legends because of Faker winning all the fucking worlds. Like, people forget it was Faker and then down one, that's it. Like, the rest were like bullshit wins, like that crazy Samsung one. Like, obviously you had Samsung 2014, but that only lasted a year. Like, you have some games that are all over the place. Remember, fucking Frost didn't win. There was other teams that damn one was supposed to win over EDG. Like, all these results were supposed to happen and they didn't happen. And I'll also put this out there. What people do to cheat, though, is as a region, it gets to look the best because they all get out of the groups, don't they? But how many times have the teams not called T1 just shit the bed themselves in the fucking playoffs? By the way, some of them even lose to the Chinese teams every now and then. That's not even something that doesn't happen. So I agree. I do think that part's over. But it is a good hot take because as of right now, first of all, he is saying it 3 tournaments out and 2 of them are big internationals. So you have to take care of a lot of business. It'll be way spicier than if he'd said it after if they'd have won MSI and won Summer, it'd still be a hot take, but it wouldn't be as spicy, would it? Like everyone could imagine a world where you can just win 3 playoff series. But right now, essentially, he's saying they can win something like 12 playoff series or something like that. That's pretty good. And I agree with Keire though. If you're an LPL fan though, the one thing you actually know is there's a crazy world, depending on who goes to Worlds, where the hardest one might actually be LPL Summer. That might actually be the hardest fucking split to win. Because if you know anything about the LPL, it's the ultimate tournament, especially because it's double elim, where it is about who you get in that upper bracket. Because I agree, you get the wrong team early, they knock you out in the first round, mate. That happens with like teams that could never win the LPL. It's just crazy how the matchups work in that fucking league. So I think it's a pretty good take. Right now, this guy was the one who did the fan take earlier, definitely wrong. Didn't know what he was talking about. He gets no bonus points for that. He gets no credit for that. He gets no respect for that. But you know what? If you want to be right and get paid for it, then you should check out our sponsor, Prize Picks, because obviously basketball season is going crazy right now. Everyone's getting ready for the playoffs coming up soon. Hockey, that's making its way through. You have all sorts of sports going. So Prize Picks really easy to do. It takes like 30 seconds. You do like 2 to 5 stats projections. All you do is pick more or less on them. So it's as simple as, if you're a fan of basketball, you could pick like, will Wembyane get more rebounds than this number here? More or less. You just figure it out based on your knowledge of the game. Look at some past stats. Also, if you want to actually copy people who win on Prize Picks, you can just go and you can actually like press with a little copy button and you can just copy all their lineups. So when you do your first lineup, first $5 line, you get $50 in lineups. It's a really nice deal. So you can go to download the Prize Picks app today and use code HOTTAKELOL. It's on the screen to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HOTTAKELOL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. They have all sorts of different features on there too. You don't on the stats projections, they have all the major ones you can think of in your sport. If it's basketball, they'll have points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers, all sorts of different ones, depending on which sports you are following. So it's just a way, like a classic, to make it more fun to follow the game and to have an extra reason to care about a specific thing. In this case, maybe it's your favourite team, but you're not just caring if they win or lose. Your team could lose, but maybe your player gets that amount of 3-pointers. It's like a way to put a different twist on the game, and obviously fun to play with your friends. You can also do the social feature where you share what your lineup is so your mate can see what yours is. Everyone knows people enjoy fantasy sports, but a lot of those, if you're doing a pool, are wrecked halfway through the season, aren't they, when you pick the wrong players or someone gets injured or something. This way, you can just be switching around all the time. You can, every week, every few days, you can just play a totally different lineup. So check out Prize Picks. Okay. What's sad is I've already burnt most of my fucking hot takes with like mini hot takes. I've been doing all bonus ones, haven't I? Let me think, because I actually had one for you. All right, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to take what you guys did last week. You know that thing they do? It's actually like a sad thing where they pretend like they're doing charity initiatives on Instagram and social media, and it'll be a guy like, hey, do you want to take this $100 or do you want to double it and pass it on? And you're supposed to, for the sake of like, I don't know, being a good person, go double it, because then eventually someone's going to get like 1,000 or something like that instead of like $100, right? Basically, I'm going to take your hot takes last week about SkewMond. Put it up. It's going to the moon. Because you know what? I actually think he's underrated, bro. He's not in this sense. Anyone who did say he's the best jungler in the world, you are absolutely smoking peace pipe. And you need to put that shit down. Like, it's one tournament, mate. Like, he hasn't done it enough internationally to get that title yet. Like, the reason we give that title to, like, LCK and LPL players is their region's so insane that you have to be super elite to be the best in it. So you almost can make the judgment that the best jungler in that region could already be the best in the world. He plays in EU, which is a bit more scuffed at jungle position, and also he's only done it one really good run internationally. He had odd games that were decent last year, but here's the reason why I actually do think I'll take it, and I won't say he's the best in the world, but I'll say this. I think one day he can be the best player in the world as a jungler, though. Only from jungle position. Because I actually do think jungle in the modern day, you know, one thing that's sort of been and gone is I actually think the era of I am just like self-made and I have crazy that isn't a thing anymore, bro. Like, you have to understand, Tarzan has as good hands as anyone, mate, but that's not why we praise him. We praise him because he's fucking amazing on the map. If you think of, at the end, by the way, people used to love to laugh at Peanut at Worlds. He never had any problems in fucking LCK, mate. Like, in LCK, he was playing literally the best hands junglers in the world, and he was fucking winning, staying alive in the game, pathing correct, helping his lanes. Like, I think jungle now is way more about brains, and it really is the era of the pathing brain jungler. Even when I said that thing Orna said earlier about how Jun and SkewMond were like attacking the map early, not in terms of just fucking them up like Selfmade would do. They weren't just finding you in a 1v1 and killing you. It was more like neutralise your pathing, like be there when you go for the gank so it isn't a gank. Like, actually, what I thought that SkewMond did was brilliant was, this is where our take's going to be, that one day I think he can do this. I think he's already had a super underrated initial... He's only in his 4th split, guys. Technically 5th now. 5th split, and he's already, by the way, looking at, he's going to be a historic EU jungler, and he's gotten better at every split as far as I can tell. I used to laugh at Loco back in the day, if you remember Keire, that his brain went, if a rookie is good, then he'll be 1.5 times better next split, and then the joke is in 3 years, he's like better than Faker at his peak. Like, that's how it works. They get worse as well. This guy doesn't. This guy actually gets like incrementally 5% better every single split, and shows up all his weaknesses a little bit, and his strengths all remain super top. And I actually think as a brain jungler, mate, this guy has something special. Like, think about the other people who we put in that category, boys, from the West, right? Beyond Diamond Procs, and that doesn't count because that was like the beginning of the game. Like, when Diamond Procs came, by the way, guys, we were only something like 4 months into bot lanes being a fucking thing. Like, that's how early Diamond Procs was. So if you take the other real ones we count, Yankos and Inspired, they're the ones we put up as like these guys were the elite junglers from the West, and they had the brains and they had just good enough hands. Think about who those people are. It took Yankos a million years and semis losses to get to the top and actually have the complete game and not choke. It took Inspired, who was showing like the mind of a brilliant player. He also took a while to become this captain figure where he could command. Essentially, if you don't know, the real secret to Inspired's career is what you see in those videos. Before, he used to do all this brilliant shit, but as far as I can tell, he was just silent. Like, he had to learn, if I'm going to have my style of play, I have to be the captain too, mate. I have to also tell you what, I have to basically tell you, you dumb laner, as opposed to the other way around. Instead of being the dog jungler, you're my dog laners, top laner, you set up in a minute, I'll be coming then. Like, that's what you have to do. SkewMond does it all already, as far as I can tell, in year 2. We haven't even finished year 2, so I do think the ceiling of this, I can't overhype him. I think he actually has the craziest ceiling I've seen for a Western player. Like, Callista has the hands, but no one knows yet if he'll be one of the all-time great players carrying everything. This guy already has shown glimpses, I think, where he's on the trajectory to be like one of the best Western players ever. Like, we're talking like, forget jungle, he could be top 5 ever, but I think he has a chance to be. It's not impossible to be the best jungler, even though it's a bit of a reach. Thoughts?
So here's the problem with SkewMond long term. Okay, I've got 2 problems. This is it. The issue is he actually plays jungle, right? Because his ability to get success is predetermined by how good his laners are, and it like also means that like Caps continues.
That's true.
Be right. So Caps.
I will say I have sort of got the cheat for that though, which is as long as he stays on G2 though, that is just a magnet for all the best players. Yes. So I do think that can sort of offset. But I know what you mean. Essentially, you can't have a shit team, can he? Because he can't win the game then.
Yes. And this is the issue.
That is true.
I have seen I think he could definitely do it. And if you take it just as like gameplay, because I'll let you a little about say, I think Canyon is the GOAT jungler, right? Because he's done everything, the breadth of his game.
Yeah.
But if you like strap me down to a chair, where I put a gun to my head, and you went, "Who's the best jungler you've ever seen?"
Okay.
I would say it's Tarzan. I think Tarzan's the best jungler I've ever seen. But he's not the GOAT.
Why are all the accidental takes the hot ones on this one? I don't know. We're all Zaboutine now, mate. We all Zaboutine now.
I think,
okay.
so because here's the thing. I've seen Tarzan.
Okay.
I've seen Tarzan do.
Also, why is that our style on this show? What we do is we go, all right, your take was a bit mad. I'll sort of, I'll be as an old brat. Here's a mental take I've got. Like, we'll just keep doing that and all that, whatever. Go on.
The issue is like his career can't go the Tarzan direction, where he ends up in all these like misaligned teams where he's like playing almost perfect. But he loses because the problem is you just build up too much baggage. Like Tarzan ended up with like too much baggage of failure, the LCK losses, like not being at Worlds, not being at MSI, like prolonged periods of international.
By the way, I know you followed a lot of esports, Keire. People do miss that part of psychology, don't they? I know what you mean.
Yes.
If you actually have too many like sort of like soul piercing losses in the big moments, I do think you don't just like refresh. Like no, but Graham, next year, like mate, you carry that shit with you forever, don't you? It's like being Vietnam or something. It's mad, isn't it? I don't know.
It does, and there is something, and I'm going to use a strong word here, there is something almost like disgusting or kind of like appalling about the loser that loses in that way and like finds himself in that way, because you think there's like something like wrong with him. It's why a Faker's just so attractive, because he's so perfect on paper. You know what I mean? Faker's just so absolute thing, right? SkewMond needs to remain that course. Now, he is on G2, right? But think of all the things that had to keep on going right for Faker, for him to stay on that course. All the things that had to happen for Chove to get back on that course. Chove was on that fucking shitey Hamwell life, by the way, and somehow managed to get out of that onto like the Gen.G, but that wasn't certain. He could have ended up on fucking BB52 dragon fucking fluffy wings with like some fucking shitters.
That does sound like it could be an LPL team.
Right? So, and this is the thing, so you've got to basically like, do that, he's got to keep on having good laners, and he's going to have to keep on like going, right? And on like top of that, right, he also can't have like any of those like individual like international like blowouts that like people remember and stuff like that, like, you know what I mean, like the set like there's just famous ones, the 0-6 TSM, fucking double lift versus Crown in the mid lane, like there's just certain ones, there's certain things can happen to Western teams that like with Western players, that just follow them, you know what I mean, around that, and you've also got to try and prevent that. But in saying all that, I've built up a lot of downplaying. He is absolutely incredible, and there is literally maybe like 3 players in the West right now who can basically like vie for the throne of like i.e. Jankos or like i.e. like, you know, whoever it is you're trying to be for. I think he's the only person playing right now that can like basically vie for the throne of like Jankos or Inspired if he like comes back to Europe and just builds a Colossus super team around him or something.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you haven't noticed, I've stopped sort of doing that take of like, he should come back, because even though we all agree, I think everyone said it the whole time since you were there with EG Inspired. I'll tell you right now, I'm speculating. I don't know him personally like I did know certain other players that moved to the West like Jensen and Alfari and stuff. I'll just tell you right now, I'm really scared of the following boys. One, he likes that fucking thing of like, I'm the highest paid player in the LCS. You just keep getting the 500,000. Remember, there's 2 reasons why, and they're classic Thorin reasons. He's from Poland. So 500k a year, that's crazy money. You know what else? He's from Poland. He doesn't want to live in the fucking grey, damp rain. He wants to live in LA, Palm Tree. Look, he's probably not going surfing. He's probably still in his house like a nerd, but I bet he wants that lifestyle, doesn't he? He also wants people going, which they never say in Europe, going, oh, you have an accent. Like, yeah, he's saying the fucking letter Z about 7,000 times in the last sentence. But to you, every accent is basically French because you're a moron American. I understand that. I get how that works.
All I'm going to say is that there's something to it. As someone from Scotland, the greyest place on the planet, it is just, our national colour is grey, not blue. Blue sky's fake, that's propaganda, it's grey, right? McTominay ain't rushing back. Like, all those players that go to Series A for Scotland, they don't come back, by the way. Notice that, how they all just stay there the entire time. They're like the captains of the teams, they're like the clubs are buying.
No, bro, it's not even the fact that like he's the player of the year in Serie A and all that, and that he has like his goals. I knew that he was never coming back, Keire, when I saw a picture of him when it was him like walking the streets of like Milan or something, and he looked like he was was like a fucking billionaire from Monaco or something. He had like the loafers on. He had like, first of all, his tan looked mega. He had the glasses, a nice coat. I was like, mate, he's never coming back to that life. That's like asking him to go back to the ghetto. He's out. He's in Beverly Hills now, mate. What are you talking about? I know.
Come back to
I know.
the draft.
Yeah, exactly. Never happening. So sadly, I'd love it if Inspired came back, for Worlds. But yeah, boys, we're going to just see him at Worlds every year. So God bless. SkewMond's the only chance. Come on,
I think
Zaboutine.
Inspired is actually a little capped, and we saw him make so many mistakes. Capped. I'm not saying bad, right? I wouldn't say bad, but he's capped because I think in the clutch moments he has shown mistakes. Even at first time, you look at his games, he's the one that actually fails at the end. Like everybody plays around him, and eventually doesn't retribute. I would say for SkewMond, I do believe that he is currently him and Nako are like absurd statistical point on the graph of how early how good you are early, like just straight as a player. Second is how fast you fix your mistakes and you understand macro. Because like you mentioned self-made, right? It's like how much this guy has improved in terms of map over like 2 or 3 years in the beginning of his career. Probably like 2%.
Exactly.
The guy just wanted to play his game. SkewMond has completely adapted to the timings. And I was watching his game 1 against Fnatic last weekend. And you look at the timing he keeps his camps as a farming jungle. He does it perfectly because he understands the state of every single laning. So in terms of understanding of the game, understanding of wave state and lane state, he's above. Mechanically, everybody saw him play skirmishes against Korean teams. He's above. And he has this very early wins that kind of cement you as a guy with experience very quickly into your career. So yes. I do believe that the only problem for SkewMond is indeed he doesn't speak Korean, because I think there is to reach the top level, you need a certain level of frequency of playing games at that level, which everybody saw at first hands he can produce, and he can produce multiple games in a row. So he has absolutely he's really the best profile to become the best jungler in the world, aside from not speaking Korean and having to sometimes the mid jungle against them is a Serin and Sheo, and this is as good as it gets. You have to wait next 3 months to play against someone who can actually match you. I think him and Nako are unreal for different reasons. I would say though, I think it is very hard to understand the psychological debt you have with a player. If we go into a little bit deeper in terms of the coaching, for instance, you said Western players have moments where they kind of get a mental block, but I can say Khan had it. I can say Clearlove had it at Worlds. I can say there is so many players.
There's a bunch of players who've done it. Absolutely.
Right, Jackie, the only player who's not exempt of that, in English, is Faker. That's it. If you play with Faker, as much as you're of a tilter you are, and remember the voice comes with Dora, and it's it's okay, just stop flashing in their base, and we should be winning this game, right? That's that level of, but everybody else on the planet is a choker. And I don't know how SkewMond reacts to, I would say, lifetime hitting losses. What I've seen, and what's very encouraging, which goes into towards you being right, Thorin, is every time G2 losses, you hear him is I played bad. I think that in team games, no matter whether they're sports or video games, you see consistent winners as people who always see the outcome through their own lens and try to fix themselves. The fact that he has this, he can actually, I think that's the biggest argument towards him becoming the best jungler in the world.
If you saw, even after they'd beaten the Korean teams, but they lost to BLG, he did that thing where he was sort of it wasn't good enough sort of angle. Mate, Americans can lose a game close in the semis and they're having a ticket tape parade. We did you guys proud. I think he actually thought he could win that tournament, bro. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the mental aspect that's most important.
By the way, if you watch game 1, SkewMond could have won that tournament. SkewMond played well. That's the scary thing. SkewMond could have won that tournament. I know what I'm meaning is, if he had a better team around him, he played well enough to win that tournament.
That's also why you're right, though, Keire. Sure. The real problem is that also it's how is he going to get enough teammates in Europe that are going to hold up in a BO5 to allow him to actually be as good as he is? You know what I mean?
Because here's the problem. SkewMond, in your mind, to be better than Yankos needs to win like an MSI, make a Worlds final, win Worlds, right? But to do that is becoming harder, not easier, because the top end squeeze of team that you have to beat is getting worse, right? And then the other part of that's kind of getting like it's kind of getting a bit like fucked is the like the thing of your competition. Like I don't think the competition to like push G2 like is going to be as good. Like I think one of the things that people forget that helped G2 be so good was the fact that Fnatic team was really good to push them. Like you know, Mickey X was being pushed by what's his name?
Hylissang.
Hylissang, thank you, all year. We're like, I know, I remember speaking to Kelsey Moser at the time. Kelsey Moser was like, she had a hot take if she was on the show. Hylissang was the second best player in the world or something, like she said to me, because of like how good he could make Fnatic. You know what I mean? He couldn't get them to win the ULCS, but he could do all these like things. And you know what I mean? They were learning from Hylissang, and then they were taking those like tactics that Hylissang was able to show them and making the best versions of them, right? Who's pushing SkewMond? Now he does have good players to push him, but you've got to push him really far to like beat the next levels like players. So it's just like a big ass. He needs like a lot of things to kind of go right in his favour. But in terms of an individual like player, he's basically it's like him and like a handful of other ones. He's super sick.
Well, there we go. That'll be it for this week. If you want to submit a take, subscribe to the Last Nation Discord, and we'll see you on the next episode of Hot Take Point Made.